When it comes to passing a pivot point, different models, they have different numbers and statistics. And this is why there's a lot of confusion online. Some people say the pivot point is only 5% of adoption of a new technology. Once 5% have been adopted, then, basically sales and adoption of that product will skyrocket. That is the case in some sectors. In other sectors, they say it's closer to 10%. And if that's the case, electric car sales, regardless of the model, whether you pick Model 1 or Model 2, have well and truly smashed past the pivot point because they've gone well past those adoption figures and skyrocketed by a staggering 34% over the last month. In January, car sales went down in Europe. I mean, all of Europe, the UK, Norway, all of those areas of Europe that aren't technically part of the European Union, all across Europe, car sales went down. But electric car sales did the exact opposite. Have we passed that pivot point? Are we now skyrocketing up that S-curve? Well, maybe not quite yet, but we can't be far off. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching The Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. As I'll be speaking at a conference here in Newcastle. It'll be only 4 speeches, four people speaking. Love to see you there. I'll put a link in the description to that event. Very exclusive event here in Newcastle. Saturday, the 15th of March from 3 to 5 p.m. I'll be speaking here with just a couple of other speakers. Very small event. So you can meet me in person. You can actually have a look at my EV as well, the Xpeng G6. Test that out. I'll put a link in the description below to the event. I believe that the tickets will probably sell out very, very quickly. So if you're from Sydney, from Brisbane, from Newcastle, make sure you click on that link as quickly as possible to get in. I think there's only around 30 tickets left at this point in time. I'll put that link in the description and I'll see you there. Passenger car registrations fell by 2.6% on an annual basis in comparison to January of last year in all of Europe, hitting a 4-month low of 831,000 units, according to the European Automobile Manufacturers Association. But interestingly, France and Italy were behind a lot of the fall, with registrations dropping 6.2%. And I've actually made a video on some of the problems, the huge problems Italy is about to face, while Italian passenger car registrations fell by 5.8%. Germany experienced a decline of 2.8%. On the other hand, new car registrations in Spain surged by 5.3%, largely on the back of a resurgent Spanish economy. Spain's economy has had a remarkable transformation over the past year. The exact opposite is happening right now in Germany and Italy, 2 of the traditional powerhouses of Europe's manufacturing engine, which are clearly stalling. But battery electric cars saw a very different result. Fully electric cars accounted for 15% of the EU car market in January 2025, up from 10.9% in the same month last year. EV sales actually skyrocketed by 34% in January to 124,341 units, partially driven by massive growth in demand in Germany, where sales grew by 53.5%. What's really remarkable about Germany's numbers is that, according to surveys in Germany, at least 70% of potential EV buyers are holding off to see what happens with the elections in Germany. The elections are about to happen. They believe the new government is likely to reinstate EV incentives. So these numbers in Germany could have been double what they actually were. Belgian car registrations increased 37%, with registrations in the Netherlands also increasing by 28%. Those 3 countries together made up 64% of overall EV registrations in the EU in January. So that really shows you what's happening, doesn't it? The Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany were the powerhouse behind EV sales. Now, sales in the UK were actually pretty impressive as well. EU battery electric vehicle sales have been pretty strong recently, mainly due to better availability of EV models. There's more choices. And really part of the problem was, right, that electric cars sales went up significantly in terms of average cost per unit last year, which is ridiculous. The average cost per unit sold of EVs in the United States went down significantly. In China, went down. In Australia, went down. In Europe, went up. Crazy. Absolutely insane. It shows you some of these massive structural problems Europe is facing when it comes to the manufacturing vehicles. EU battery electric vehicle sales have been also helped to some degree by more government support, not in Germany, but elsewhere, and a growing consumer shift towards electrification. Now, when it comes to hybrids, well, they made up about 34.9% of the total EU car market in January, while also being the most popular choice for buyers in that area. New hybrid electric vehicle registrations in the EU advanced 18.4% in January, mainly driven by robust growth in France, where registrations jumped by 52.2%, as well as Spain, where they also increased by 23.5%. Hybrid sales also increased by 13.7% in Germany and 10.8% in Italy. But overall, the increase in EV sales far outpaced the increase in hybrid sales in Europe in January. Plug-in hybrid electric car registrations continued to decline by 8.5% in January this year to only 61,406 units. This fall was mainly because of the vital markets such as Belgium, where registrations dropped by a staggering 66.6%, as well as France, which saw a plunge of 54%. Plug-in hybrid electric cars currently account for only 7% of overall car sales in Europe. Very interesting here to see plug-in hybrid sales be such a small factor in Europe and electric cars being so much more popular. I'm curious, what do you guys think? Let's say tomorrow, all the good plug-in hybrids that you can buy in China, let's say they were all available in Europe. Do you guys think that plug-in hybrid sales would go up in Europe significantly as a result? Would that triple sales there? Or would people go, no, we don't want them? I'm intrigued to know what people think. Now, one potential reason for this, maybe European customers have seen the data. When I say the data, I mean the data on car fires. I find it a little surprising that almost no one I've spoken to who's bought a plug-in hybrid, when I say almost no one, I mean 99% of the people that I've spoken to, sure, this is purely anecdotal, but it's still a fact. Almost no one is aware of the fact that plug-in hybrid fires are at least 100 times more likely than fires of electric cars, and at least 50 times more likely than internal combustion engine vehicle sales. Plug-in hybrid sales, unfortunately, are remarkably common still. Something about putting a big battery in with an engine which is producing combustion, small explosions going on for an internal combustion engine to work, and then combining that with the battery, for some reason it often doesn't work. Now, that is old data, to be fair. I mean, when I say old data, all data is old, isn't it, really? I actually think plug-in hybrid fires will significantly improve over the coming years, and they already have begun to improve significantly, but it's still, for me, a personal concern, and I personally probably would not buy one, just because I think, why is it needed? I mean, you can buy electric cars now with 600 kilometers of range. Do you need more than that? You can buy them with more range than that, in fact, but do you need more? I don't think you do. Petrol and diesel car registrations plunged on overall, the fact that why the hell would you buy a petrol or diesel car? Purely petrol or purely diesel seems insane to me. In January, petrol car registrations, as in gasoline car registrations, plummeted by 18.9% due to all key markets seeing lagging performance. France experienced the largest fall, with registrations dropping by 28%. Germany, they fell 23.7%. Italy, they fell 17%. Spain, they fell 11.1%. In January, 244,763 petrol cars were registered, with the market share for these types of cars falling to 29.4% of the total EU car market. In comparison, petrol cars accounted for 35% of the market in January 2024. So as you can see here, sales of petrol and diesel are dying in Europe. Now, I suspect by 2030, there will be none. I mean, you'd have to be, even today, I can't see the real logical case for buying a purely internal combustion car, purely diesel, purely petrol. I think it's madness. I can't believe anyone does it. I think by 2030, it won't be happening at all in Europe. By 2035, of course, no drivetrain will be legal except for fully electric cars. But by then, maybe more of the mainstream population will have more of an understanding about EVs. They'll kind of, have more exposure to them. and be more comfortable with owning one. I still think to myself every day, I'm like, today I plugged my car into my solar panels, and I thought, man, it's such a great way to live. It's stressful having to go and fill your car up with petrol or diesel and think about how much it costs you. It's so expensive. And in Europe, the cost of gasoline, the cost of diesel is crazy expensive. So why on earth would 244,763 people buy a purely petrol or purely diesel powered car, knowing just how much that's going to cost them? It's mental. If you combine that with the fact that the data coming out of Europe says that EVs last longer, even older, crappier ones, EVs last longer on average for all vehicle types in comparison to internal combustion cars, either diesel or petrol. EVs all last longer now. That's what the data says. Then it just doesn't make any sense at all not to go electric, at least in some form. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.